Let's start first of all talking about your history involved in the harmonica. How did you first get introduced to the instrument itself?
Well, I was back in 1968. I was a junior in high school, and I lived in Seattle then. And James Cotton came through town, and I remember he jumped off the stage and was playing this great harmonica solo, and he came walking through the crowd and walked right by me, playing that beautiful sound, and I was just hooked after that. I went right out the next day and bought a C Marine band, and my life's been downhill from there.
You know, a lot of people, it seems like they have bought as a kid, bought a harmonica. You know, what is the universal appeal that this instrument seems to have for everybody?
Well, it's sort of a double-edged sword, really, because, as I say in the book, the only thing rarer than somebody who's never played the harmonica is somebody who's really done it justice. So, but I think if you're a harmonica fan, you just sort of live with that. I mean, it is the subtitle of the book is the evolution of the people's instrument, and it definitely is kind of the instrument for the common man, I suppose you could say. It's so portable. I think for one thing that has a lot to do with its popularity. It's been to both poles, down the Amazon. It was the first instrument in outer space when Wally Schirra smuggled a little Hohner harmonica aboard a Apollo, a Gemini space flight. But I think it's got this reputation as the one instrument anybody could learn how to play. But in actuality, I think if you talk to most people, they've played it a few times and sort of realize how difficult it could be and put it back in the box and put it back in the drawer maybe. But I think the thing that still amazes me about the harmonica is how much different and really unique music can be squeezed out of such a tiny little unassuming sort of musical device. I think it's still, like today there's a jazz player named Howard Levy, he was just recently left Bella Fleck and the Flecktones, and he's developed an entirely new, totally unique technique on how to play the diatonic harmonica, and the thing has been around for 200 years, and you'd think that the book would pretty much be written on it, but every time you think that, somebody like Howard comes down the pike and all the rules are out the window again. So it constantly astonishes me, frankly, how much varied, great music can come out of such a small device.
But has it had, is it going to work with the, has it had a, has the instrument really received, you know, the justice that you're talking about? You feel like after all these years, I mean, it has had a lot of history to it.
Well, I think there's always going to be a segment of the population, frankly, that puts it in sort of a low category musically, like maybe with its cousin, the accordion. But I don't think we need to carry the torch for the harmonica. There have been so many great players in all styles of music. That was another real, reason behind the book. I really wrote the book because I wanted to read it. There really was no source book on the instrument, despite the fact that it's probably, or arguably anyway, the most popular musical instrument in history. And I cover all styles of American music in the book: pop, jazz, country, blues, folk, even classical music. There have been some really excellent classical harmonica players. And so the harmonica doesn't need anybody to carry the torch for it. It can pretty much speak for itself. But I like to think that maybe the book will do its part in sort of making people a little bit more aware about, like I have a discography in the back of how to find some of the, different harmonica recordings that are available in all the different styles. Not many of the players are actually exactly household names, so it helps to have a little signpost for people who are interested to follow.
I know you cover all the genres, but specifically, what role has it played in country music's history?
Well, the harmonica was in country music right from the beginning, and the Tennessee Hill Country around Nashville was a real breeding ground for many, many great harmonica players back in the early 20s when they first began recording country music. And in 1925, when the Grand Ole Opry was begun, two of its early stars were DeFord Bailey, a black harmonica player who was probably the first crossover country music star, and he was a fixture on the Opry from 1925 to 1941. And Herman Crook, who was still whose band, the Crook Brothers, was one of the first 5 bands chosen for the Opry in 1925, and he was I came through in '86, and he was still playing every Friday night on the Opry. That was 63 consecutive years. That's a real phenomenal story, I think. And Jimmy Riddle, who played for many years with Roy Acuff, was a fantastic harmonica player, and Oni Wheeler, who also played with Roy Acuff, did a lot of sessions in the 50s. But really, despite the fact that the harmonica was a big part of early country music, it had really kind of died out in commercial country music until Charlie McCoy, who's been kind enough to come down and play a little with me today, really personally resurrected the instrument in country music in the 60s. Early on, he played in a pretty bluesy style. It was similar to, you know, the kind of traditional blues harp style that we think of when we think of, a lot of people think of when they think of the harmonica. But he developed a really unique and very musical and sort of advanced style on the harmonica that everybody who tries to fake a little country western harmonica now is basically playing Charlie McCoy in some way or another. So he basically single-handedly rescued the instrument from obscurity in country music, and now it's very big. People like Mickey Raphael, Willie Nelson, and there are a lot of great session players like Kurt Jelly Roll Johnson, who's going to be here with me today, and Terry McMillan. So the harmonica's future looks real strong in country music. So it's probably one of its most vital genres right now.
Is there any one certain message or ideas you want to convey through this book at all?
What I had in mind in doing the book was, again, let me think here. Basically, the idea behind the book was to show that the harmonica has played a really vital role in really almost every form of American music, again, from pop to blues to jazz to classical. And I think people are pretty aware of the instrument in terms of the role that it's played in blues and country music, but I wanted to expand on that. Although I'm essentially a blues harp player myself, it was really important to me to have people as disparate as Toots Thielman and Larry Adler and the Harmonic Cats and Little Walter and Charlie McCoy, all in between a single pair of covers. And I think I frankly was surprised at the scope of the instrument and of the role that it's played in American music, and I think anybody who reads the book would find that too. And I also have a lot of interviews in the book. I'm a player myself, and I like to hear the players tell their own stories whenever possible, so I work really hard to do that in the book. And harmonica players are kind of a fascinating, ornery bunch of hardcore individuals, I think, and they tend to be self-taught, and there's no clear-cut career path for a harmonica player, so they tend to be kind of maniacally focused, and again, they've created an amazing variety of great music on such a small instrument. I think that's probably my main point.